Hello once again and welcome to Auction Update. Kevin Brogan will join me in just a moment. And we're going to hear that for the fifth week, our clearance rate is over 65%. Back in just a moment.
Point your clients in the right direction with our range of directional signage. With a variety of options, we have a pointer board for every situation. Made with quality, durable materials, they're built to withstand our varying weather.
And joining me once again from CoreLogic, Kevin Brogan. Good morning, Kevin. Good afternoon, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks, Kevin.
Good. Okay, good news. Auction clearance rate over 65% for the fifth week. We're seeing numbers down a little bit, but what's happening with clearance rates year on year?
Oh, look, the clearance rates this year are significantly higher than they were last year. We've got clearance rates in Sydney. I mean, the preliminary rate of over 80% has kept up 76.5%. Melbourne as well, over 70% this week, and that's what's brought that combined city average up.
Yeah, well, we're looking at those clearance rates now. Let's have a look at some of the other capitals. Brisbane, 35.3%. That's probably seems to be around about normal.
Yeah, look, it is. I mean, we did have a couple of weeks ago a bit of a surge in Brisbane in clearance rates, but the volume of auction sitting around that sort of 90 mark has been fairly steady for a couple of weeks. And as you say, the clearance rates for Brisbane have been in that sort of low to high 30s range for a little while.
Adelaide and Canberra still performing quite well.
Yeah, look, Adelaide has been fairly steady for quite a long time now. I mean, if you look at the clearance rates over an extended period, even back as far as a year, you'll actually see that they've been in a relatively tight range compared to some of the other capital city markets. Canberra as well, just in the last sort of couple of months, we've seen Canberra sort of pick up in terms of the clearance rates, and that result in the 60% range is sort of fairly typical for the last few weeks.
Okay, well, let's take you to the Sydney sub-regions now. We can see that North Sydney and Hornsby first up at 86.1%, and even eastern suburbs at 85%. They're pretty good numbers.
Oh, look, they certainly are, and I mean those are the sort of reliable sub-regions. I think as we've discussed before, some of these sub-regions with the more expensive housing stock are actually sort of leading the charge in Sydney as far as recovery is concerned in auction clearance rates. So we're also finding, you may note if you watch our sort of preview of preliminary rates, you'll notice that those haven't actually dropped a lot. We're actually getting the results in fairly briskly from agents now, obviously wanting to share their success.
It's always a good sign too, isn't it? It's a sign that the market's starting to kick, and even the agents are getting a little bit more confidence about what's happening as well.
Oh, look, that's certainly happening in those sub-regions.
Okay, we'll take you to Melbourne now, the sub-regions there. What do we see? A lot in the 70s. Southeast at 87.5%. That's still, and that's good. Inner South, probably the leading. Not quite the leading. Inner has 97 auctions with a clearance rate of around 70%. They're very solid results.
Oh, look, they certainly are, and I mean the Southeast again. That clearance rate has stayed high from our preliminary figure, so we're getting the results in. From agents wanting to share the success. Interesting, the Southeast is, I think over the last week, the median sale price was around 900,000. So that's higher, obviously, than the median for the whole of Melbourne, but it's not the sort of top end that we saw leading the charge in Sydney.
Mm-hmm. We'll have a look at the auction numbers in just a moment for this coming week, but before we do, here's James Bell with his auction tip for the week.
Hi, I'm James Bell from the Auction Group. Not every property listed for auction is sold on auction day, and that fear can stop a lot of people using the method without understanding how it is intended to work. Many properties do sell under the hammer on auction day, but sometimes they sell before and sometimes after. It's important to understand auction is a strategy to sell at the best price on the best terms, not just a result on auction day. If an interested buyer is not prepared to take the risk of losing the property to another bidder on auction day, they can place an offer before the auction to secure the property by private negotiations prior to the auction. We normally expect an offer prior to be premium in order to entice the seller to release the property without putting it to competition. If a property does not sell on auction day in that reserve was not met by the bidders, then the seller has gained invaluable feedback about where the current group of buyers in the market positions their property. If the reserve is set too high, there's every chance that the property would not have gone to market with a list price that is too high. And the auction result is a prompt to re-strategise. For a property to sell, regardless of auction or private treaty, the buyer and seller must be in alignment on value. The auction campaign gives buyer and seller time to find that alignment. James Bell for propertytv.io.
Thanks, James. Let's have a look at the auctions ahead coming up for us. Kevin, the smaller capitals around Australia are still fairly normal. Let's focus our attention on Sydney and Melbourne. What's happening there?
Yeah, look, we've seen an increase in both Sydney and Melbourne in auction numbers. I have to say it's a slight increase. Obviously, as we're sort of coming towards the end of the winter season, we're all looking to see whether we see a sharp spike in listings for the beginning of spring. So, a slight increase over the coming week, but I think we're going to have to wait just a little bit longer to see that sort of springtime listing pattern.
Yeah, what about those days of, the Super Saturdays where we saw 1,000 auctions in Melbourne? Do you think we'll see that again this year?
Oh, look, I mean, I think all of the signs are sort of encouraging from the demand side. If you were a seller looking at putting your property on the market, you would be seeing, the values look as if they've stabilised. You've got increased clearance rates. You've got record low mortgage rates. All of those signs are pretty encouraging. So, look, I would expect that we're going to see some sort of latent supply come to the market in spring.
Well, as normal, we'll be with you on Monday. Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic will join us, and he'll give us the most comprehensive rundown of clearance rates and what's happening with auctions right around the country. And we'll also take you inside the top sales in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth and Canberra. So stick around for that. That's coming your way on Monday. A reminder once again that Property News Update and Real Estate Talk are out over the next 24 hours. You'll find them all at propertytv.io. Once again, Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic, thanks very much for your time, mate.
Thanks a lot, Kevin.